Hey there, YouTube. I know I haven't been here in like a month, but I've been really busy with schoolwork. Just hear me out. Okay, so for those of you who didn't see it, SNL Saturday Night Live had their 40th anniversary this past Sunday, 2 days ago, and it was amazing. It was a 3.5 hour long Saturday Night Live special with an hour red carpet premiere prior. And I'm going to attempt to recap it in 10 to 15 minutes right now. So, for those of you who didn't see it, sit back, relax, and we're going to recap SNL. Okay, so it started out, there's Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake came on, and they were on stage, and they did this opening song, and their opening song was just amazing, and it had like all these skits in it, and oh my goodness, it was, I don't even understand, like, they sang an opening song about SNL and cited like all the best skits, all the best things, everything, the sweaty balls, dick in a box. They just like cited all of it in their song, and it was amazing. And then there was the opening credits, and oh my god, the opening song was just amazing. I'm sorry, the opening song was just amazing. Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake they are so perfect together. And then Debbie Downer comes in and she, wah, wah, on stage, and it was so funny. And then Jimmy and Justin dressed up almost like they were the Blues Brothers, like they were going to do a Blues Brothers performance. And they're like, you know what this needs? Do you know what this needs? More cowbell. And they brought out the cowbells. Oh, it was so amazing. And then they sang, and there was the 40 Years song, which was, all about 40 years of SNL, and it was sung. And then they did, your regular SNL opening, but it was different. You know how when you do your regular SNL opening, it goes through New York City, and it goes on all the people's faces, and, there comes the names, and there's the cast. It did that, except it did clips from all 40 years, all the episodes, skits from here and there and pulled out. And it ran through clips like that, and then had pictures of everyone, and when the names came up of everyone who was there, part of the cast, it was everyone who was there that night. Every single person who was there that night. And it came up, from their previous skits they were doing, their faces, and just, it went through a long list. Everybody was there. Everybody was there. So then after that, they did the SNL opening, and then Steve Martin comes out. He's hosting, which is great. And there was a little tribute there to Lorne Michaels, who is the creator of SNL, and then everyone who has passed on who was part of the cast from SNL, and then and then they started this long banter thing, and Steve Martin's here making this funny like tribute to all the comedians, who have hosted SNL, and how SNL is all about the comedians. And Tom Hanks comes up on stage and interrupts, and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What about the actors? What about the actors on SNL? It's not all about comedians. And then, so you have this Martin versus Hanks little, like, banter going on. And then, if it wasn't bad enough for them, a whole bunch of people just come up and start interjecting their pieces. So you have this Martin versus Hanks banter versus Alec Baldwin comes up, Melissa McCarthy, Chris Rock, Peyton Manning, Miley Cyrus, Jack Nicholson, and it's this whole long banter with everybody. And it was hilarious and amazing. And then, like Paul McCartney came up and started singing songs, and, it was beautiful. And then they ran through a whole bunch of clips that were, after everybody got off the stage and banter was done, they ran through a whole bunch of clips that were, really great skits from all 40 years. And they ran through, plus, little clips of like the musical guests that have been there for the past 40 years. And they just ran through all those. And it was like a nice little memory lane thing. And you just sat there and watched, as they ran through the skits and the musical clips, and it was amazing. It was amazing to go back and see all that. And then they had, then they started their new skits for the night, the skits made just for the 40th anniversary. And there was the bass skit. The basket was hilarious. They were advertising the product, the Super Bass-O-Matic 2150, and it was basically a blender. And it was like for making perfect bass, and they would just drop a bass in there and blend it up, and then drink it and be like, that's good bass. And it was just ridiculous. Then there was another Celebrity Jeopardy skit. I mean, how can you have a 40th anniversary without bringing back a Celebrity Jeopardy skit? So Celebrity Jeopardy, and it had all your favorite characters. Of course, it had Sean Connery and a whole bunch of random great, as always, Jeopardy topics, especially like say your name, which that entire topic was all you had to do was say your name. And of course, Sean Connery read everything wrong, category who reads, and he's like, I'll take horror ads, and just but every time you looked over, there was a new random character that just popped up that was there suddenly playing Celebrity Jeopardy, and there's like 10 different people playing Celebrity Jeopardy, and he's like when did you get here, and of course we had our Justin Bieber. That was a good one. And then Pete Davidson and Leslie Jones came on stage, and they were talking about how everybody who had ever been on SNL had to be on the SNL stage first for auditions. And then it played back a whole bunch of clips from like everybody's auditions. Everybody from Eddie Murphy to Kristen Wiig. Just everybody. And some of the auditions to get on Saturday Night Live, it was hilarious. Then Robert De Niro comes on, and he introduced some more. They had another run through of a bunch of skits and, musical guest clips like they did earlier, run through everything. And, just another little memory lane thing. It was great. And then Paul McCartney came on as musical guest and sang one of his classic songs. So there's classic Paul McCartney there singing at the piano, doing his Paul McCartney. It was beautiful. Jack Nicholson was there. There was Jack Nicholson was talking about skits that were these are like specific clips they played. They played a whole bunch of clips from political humor skits. So every time anyone dressed up as the president or a governor or whatever, all the political humor skits throughout the 40 years. And that was great. Then they had a Californian skit. That was good. That was fantastic. They brought back the Californians, and it was the family reunion skit. And it was so funny. And it was, your classic Californians with the accent and everything. And they had a special guest being part of the Californians family was Taylor Swift, and I thought she did a great job. She looked like she belonged to be part of the Californians, and she did the accent. And then Betty White, and Betty White is the only person who can come on stage and not do any accent, and just do her regular voice and still be fantastic and be a character. She's just Betty White. It was amazing. And at the end of the Californian sketch, there was it was so funny. It was like a canceled flight attendant sketch, that was never supposed to make it on live. And these they came out dressed as flight attendants, and they were like ushering all the actors off the Californian sketch. And they're like, and everyone's like, what are you doing? The flight attendant sketch, this is the Californians. The flight attendant sketch was canceled. It's not going to make it on air. And they're like, well, actually, we're live, and we're standing right here, so it's on air. Come on. It was great. We had a weekend update. You need to have a weekend update. there was no way you could do an SNL40 without a Weekend Update. And they were just making all these SNL40 jokes, and it was Jane and Tina and Amy who were hosting the Weekend Update, and they had special appearances from, like, Emma Stone came on and played her favorite character, and Melissa McCarthy came on and played her favorite character from Weekend Update, and then we had the Stefan versus Stefan. Came up and played Stefan, and then the real Stefan came up and was like, "Excuse me," and Seth Meyers walks up, and this made my night, and Seth Meyers walks up and looks at Stefan and is like, "What are you doing?" And Stefan's like, "What? Are you jealous?" And Seth Meyers is like, "You can't, we have kids now. We have kids now." And Stefan looks out into the camera and he's like, "Mommy and Daddy aren't fighting. It's okay, kids. Mommy and Daddy aren't fighting." And I was like, oh, they finally have kids. That's cute. That's perfect. And then somehow, at the end of the Weekend Update, the land shark comes in from the side, and he's just like, "Oh, nom nom, I'm the land shark." That was great. And then there's another series of clips, skits, all the Weekend Update sketches that were ever done, and there was a bunch of clips of that. All the best parts of the Weekend Update. That was great. That was great. They did a fiber sketch, Colin Bowls cereal, and it was just ridiculously stupid. You can figure out by the name of the cereal, what was going on. And then Martin Short came on stage, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna introduce Beyonce," and then Beyonce came on. It was Maya Rudolph dressed up as Beyonce. The whole time she was on stage, they had a fan blowing back Maya's hair to do that Beyonce signature, in the wind thing, and it was just her. Like, it wasn't blowing on anyone else, it was just her hair. And she had on the outfit from, like, Single Ladies, and she was just, like, getting her Beyonce on, and they did a whole song, and there's just, like, everybody did a little bit of song. It was amazing, and they sang New York, New York, and we have our favorite sweater vest couple who just makes things up on the spot, singing things like it's a fun thing to do to put on comfortable shoes and blah, 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 blah. Eric Stevens on the piano over there, freaking out, doing awesome. Adam Sandler sang this reunion song, and this is all part of this one Beyonce Martin Short song thing, and everyone just comes on. Adam Sandler sang this reunion song about being back together on SNL, and then Kenan Thompson came on and sang a song, saying "What's Up With That," and he was like, "What's up with that?" and sang the song. Steve Martin came out of the sarcophagus in his Egyptian costume that he had worn how many years ago, and he came back out, and there's Steve Martin as an Egyptian, and then Bill Murray was on, and he was singing the Jaws song, and it was great. And then they had this, like, Blues Brothers, like, tribute thing, and other dressing up as Blues Brothers. It was great. And then you have Chris Rock. He came out on stage, and he was talking about his comedy career, and with SNL, and how he, became a comedian, how it was kind of through SNL. And then he introduced his idol, Eddie Murphy, which, I mean, come on, Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy, like, come on now. So Eddie Murphy introduced the sports sketch clips, along with Peyton Manning. And so they ran through a bunch of clips of all the sports sketches that were ever done in the 40 years on SNL. And then we had an ESPN skit. Of course, ESPN needed its own skit. Of course. Miley Cyrus came in as a musical guest, and she sang Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover and nailed it. It's the most beautiful performance I've seen Miley Cyrus make in a really long time. And she just nailed it. She was, and her outfit, it was so cute. Everything, Miley, everything. Perfect. So then Jerry Seinfeld comes out on stage, and he's like, questions from the audience. And of course, everybody's in the audience. And so when he asks questions, people who stand up and ask questions, stupid questions, like John Goodman and Larry David stand up. And Ellen Claiborne stands up, and she's like, "Why aren't there that many black women?" And Jerry's like, "Oh, you mean on SNL?" And she's like, "No, in general." You know, just like stupid stuff. James Franco, Dakota Johnson, Tim Meadows stood up and asked a question. Sarah Palin stood up and Jerry's like, "Oh yeah, Tina," and Sarah's like, "Actually, it's Governor Palin." You know, and a whole bunch of people stood up, and it was great. It was great. It was good to see Sarah Palin back on and having that great sense of humor that she's had. She's been on the show before. Then JCPenney had one of those filmed sketches that they do, and it was a commercial for mom jeans. You know, JCPenney mom jeans. That was really funny. Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey came on and they did a little Tracy Morgan tribute. You know, because Tracy couldn't be there. You know, laughing, having a good time. They did a clip from the Bird sketch that had Tracy Morgan in it. It's fantastic. Christopher Walken comes up and introduces Kanye West, and Kanye West comes in as a musical guest and starts singing, and he had Sia on stage with him, and it was a really, like, it wasn't a really, like, boisterous performance with a lot of lights and show, and it was very down to earth and very, very just contemporary. I loved it. It was really great. Then they did clips from all the non-live film sketches that they've ever done. So like when they film the sketches beforehand and play it, like things like Dick in the Box, you know, your digital shorts, the ones that you like, MacGruber. So they went through and did some clips from that and brought that up. Zach Galifianakis was there, came on stage. It was really great to see Zach Galifianakis there. Then they did another digital short, the SNL Greats. Adam Sandler and Andy Samberg did that, and that was great. You know, just like talking about all the greats on SNL. It was just amazing. Bill Murray came on stage and did a really, really sweet tribute again to everyone who had passed on from SNL cast and SNL crew. And then they played this it was like a music video almost, and it was Don't Look Back in Anger, and it was another digital short, and it basically was like reminiscing on everyone who was part of the cast, part of the crew, everyone who had passed away, and it had their faces and their names, and it just had this nice soft music. And then, of course, because SNL can't do anything serious without a comic relief, at the end it had John Lovitz on there, and John Lovitz, still alive, is sitting out in the audience going, "What do you mean? I'm right here. I'm right here." That was really great. They did a Wayne's World sketch. Oh, they did a Wayne's World sketch, and I'm so happy about that. I think I would have cried if SNL40 ended without a Wayne's World sketch. They brought him back on and did a Wayne's World sketch, and top 10 things, brought out the board. It was top 10 things about SNL. And oh my goodness, Kanye West was having a lot of fun with this. Kanye West, I didn't even realize he has such a good sense of humor. He really does. And they kept saying, like, "Sit down, Kanye, don't come up, don't storm the stage," and Kanye was in his seat, pretending to be detained and pretending to try to, like, get up and move out of his seat, and, like, he was gonna come up on stage and, like, push out of the way and start talking. He was having a lot of fun with that. He was laughing. I didn't even know that Kanye West had such a good... He's really funny. I didn't know that. So Wayne's World went on to the top 10 things about SNL, which was great. Went over, like, the wigs and the costumes and the characters and just, like, everybody. And of course, Lorne Michaels. The entire show, like, Lorne Michaels' name popped up 1,000,003 times. Who created SNL? Lorne Michaels. And then at the end of the top 10 things, Wayne's World shouted out about the crew. The number one thing was the crew. And so we got to see, who's behind the camera and everything for the 40th. And Wayne's World, did the "We are not worthy, we are not worthy." No, it was great to see the crew. Then Paul Simon came on as musical guest and made a shout out to the SNL band and everyone in the SNL band. And And that was it. And then everybody was there, and everybody came up on stage to do the sign off. And it was the biggest. That stage was packed full of people. Oh my goodness. Everybody was up there. And that was the end of it. And it was an amazing Saturday Night Live 40th anniversary. Can't wait for the 50th. Fantastic. One of a kind. If you haven't seen it, you should go to the SNL website. I'll put the link in the description. Other than that, you should check out the rest of my videos. Yeah. Oh, also, before I go, I have a radio station now. I'll put the link for that in the description too. You should come check out my radio station and listen to all the great songs I have going on. Well, that's your SNL 40 in 20 minutes. Tried to do 15. 20 minutes is still good. 20 minutes is still good. Yeah. Don't forget to click that likey thing. It's down there, isn't it? It's on this side. Don't forget to click that likey thing. 1 up. If you liked it, subscribe. Do all the pretty clicky the button things. And I love you, and I'll see you later. And bye.